the higher Saturn, self-mastery, teacher, overcoming trials and tribulations, and satanic forces. Saturn's job is ultimately to strengthen us, similar to how resistance weight training builds muscle. We are in a spiritual boot camp here, and with the end goal of awakening to our true potential, understanding what is dormant and targeted, and rescuing those things like our junk DNA, which isn't junk, and our galactic chakras, which are energy centers we need to open. So everything that we could possibly need is within us. So if we got like junk DNA and it's not junk, then we need to start understanding, well, what is it then? Well, we could talk about the nucleic acids. We can get into the scientific terminology. We can understand it on a more archetypal level and based in elements, earth, air, fire, water, ether. And I'm going to get into that. And it'll make it much easier to consciously switch these dormant strands on when it's not just like a bunch of, scientific terms. It's actually something that we can relate to because we're experiencing it. Nature is an outer reflection of our soul, of our DNA, of everything. So anyway, and the galactic chakras are going to begin to help us to make, important connections with our higher self, our galactic family, and anything, out there, and, that is, really just with us, wanting to see us overcome this most monumental time in human history, which is, basically the end of the cabal and the deep state. And it's monumental because it's now exposed for all to see, to consciously remove themselves from, whereas before it was hiding. And all these different crimes against humanity, we weren't able to see. We did see some, but not all of it. We didn't see the architects behind the false flags of war, things like 9/11, all these different things that are designed to just, crush us. And this has been going on for a super long time. Saturn's known as the dominator and controller as far as its lower energies in the matrix. And the limitations, rules, and responsibilities is more of how it represents itself in the human sphere. So some limitations, rules, and responsibilities are good. But when there are limitations that are suppressive and oppressive and controlling to the point where it's keeping us from thriving, then those limitations and rules aren't any good. So when we work with Saturn, we want limitations and rules that work for us. Maybe it's going to bed at a certain time so we get a good night's sleep. Maybe it's the limitation of not overeating or drinking, or maybe it's a limitation of, instead of like doing something super fun, you might just go out and get some exercise and get some structure in your life to be a healthy person. There's all sorts of limitations and rules that can really work. And a lot of things that we're responsible to that actually bring us a lot of love and joy. But when it's turned and inverted into, limitations that control us and block us, we have so much to fight for right now. We're talking about future generations. And the thing is, it's like, we need to earn this by not being complacent. So the highest level of Saturn is teacher master. So through all that we're going through, isn't this where we can like pop out at the end? We can become teachers. We can have some level of self-mastery. And in doing that, we're able to help others. And when they see that there's way more to us than just maybe, the election or a particular political party, and they know that, we're representing something of a much larger order and bigger picture, our words might be more effective, hopefully. I know sometimes I've probably lost a lot of people, because I've just been very loud about this administration only because of how critical it is. But otherwise, I go back into my sovereign zone. I don't really engage in the political realm because right now it's not about politics. So if it's not about politics, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do all I can. So Saturn also relates to the devil card in the tarot. And when it's upright, it represents temptation, unhealthy relationships, enslavement, materialism, bondage, fear, and feeling trapped. When it's reversed, it means a person is getting a grip over those forces. And it represents freedom from restraints, breaking from addictions, and like the divorce from any kind of bondage, any kind of attachment that isn't healthy. That represents sort of like the devil, something that like a narcissistic personality, or a partner that's abusive. And this is the kind of relationship that the old paradigm, the cabal, has with its humans. It's abusive, it's narcissistic, it's selfish, it's greedy, it steals, it lies, it does unspeakable crimes. And we're like in a relationship with it. So we need to get a divorce. We need to get a grip over Saturn. And every single one of us has work to do on that. And the card that follows the devil card is actually the Tower. If you look at the order of the archetypes, the Tower knocks down old structures to rebuild new structures. It's very connected to the planet Uranus. So anyway, the Draconian Orion group are also referred to as the Black Suns. Sons of Belial are the other controller group, and they're aligned. They've formed an alliance. They block the stargates on the planet. The black suns have reversed their DNA. It's a reverse 10 DNA strand, and it's running a reversal life current. They have a hierarchical system. Earth-based reptilians appear to be in command over EBE or biological entities known as small grays. And that's exactly what we might end up turning into if we get these kind of vaccinations. But I don't want to put any fear in anybody. Say you did get vaccinated, say something like that happened. People are like, oh, it's not reversible. You can't reverse it. I don't think anything's impossible. So, and I think there's going to be more information about how to undo some of these kind of damages. I can't just imagine that, you know, it's a done deal, especially if like a person did it without realizing. So I just feel that there's great power in spirit, and anything's, you know, possible. But it seems though that as humans digressed through the different tactics that they're using, that they did become these beings that needed to abduct to get genetic material to save their dying race. But some have stayed owned and controlled by the Earth-based reptilians and are just, you know, doing, you know, their orders, you know, they're doing their dirty work. So you got two different types of grays, ones that I feel are still very owned by the reptilian agenda, and some that are trying to heal and break free. And they're coming in from different times or different places in the timeline. But these aren't all grays. This is just a certain type. And then, of course, all reptilians aren't negative either. So you're dealing with, you know, just this small concentrated group. But it's very obvious and clear to me that grays, even tall whites, are modified and engineered humanoids, or what might have been, you know, like Nordics even, that have slowly been assimilated into something else. And that's, you know, what the AI is all about. You know, the hive mind assimilating us into AI obviously is going to digress us, and our physical bodies are going to change. So we are at the crossroads right now of like moving in the direction of being, you know, more online with becoming an ascended master instead of, you know, a gray alien. A lot of readings that I've done, people say I used to be a gray, you know, and there are hybridization programs that have been healing, you know, this race, and they're called the Essassani, as you guys know. Bashar probably is one of them. So there is some hope there, and supposedly the Essassani want to reward us or pay us back for us helping them with some of these programs. And so we might see something on a galactic scale intervene in amazing ways, but we want to be very discerning and careful. A lot of things can present themselves as being benevolent, and they absolutely aren't, as we all know. And there are technologies that can create a Nordic appearance when it's actually a reptilian. So we want like the real psychic and really tuned in people, you know, on the front lines of this, you know, when contact happens or any kind of disclosure comes out, so that, you know, we know what we're dealing with. I mean, I don't know how it's all going to look. I think people are going to be starting to get prepared for something maybe specific to them. And then we're going to have events that take place on a much bigger like level. These biological entities known as small grays have very limited levels of they access limited levels of biological immortality through the vampirism and siphoning of other living things, such as the planet Earth. So artificial timelines have been in the works for 26,000 years or so. Positive timelines connect with recognizing our divine blueprint and our true origins. The positive timeline, organic ascension, natural stargates opening, expansion, upgrades of our DNA. This is a stellar activation cycle window period, and it's our opportunity to get fully anchored on this path to avoid future repercussions that come from being immersed in the artificial matrix. Much of the benevolent ET visitations has to do with correcting this, but some are not, and they are part of the negative ET agenda. Anyway, immersed in the artificial matrix is definitely the mainstream media and the entertainment industries. You know, when you're an observer, you can look at these things without getting sucked in and programmed by it. You can observe and you can see the programs. So yeah, catastrophic timeline, that's negative ETs who have been manipulating the human world of affairs for thousands and thousands of years since the Atlantean cataclysm for their own purpose. They compromised their DNA on purpose and manipulated ours. Assimilation into AI through continual traumatic events. And so we're going through these continual traumatic events. And now the trauma is that maybe we don't think it's, you know, the virus is as bad as they all say. We have to suffer the consequences of this level of control, of telling us how we should relate to our own health. Socialism and communism literally takes over us. It's the ultimate form of control and our resources. So the lower the quality of overall energy, the more unstable and disconnected the personal and environmental experience on Earth will become. The higher the quality of overall energy, the more stable and connected the personal and environmental experience on Earth will become. So we want to create real, stable energies of, grounded with nature and the earth and good food and creativity and, good friends and love. And just, that's a stable, high frequency energy. And it's what allows us to ascend. It's an ascending hub. It gives us the accretions that we need to integrate light energy in order to begin to switch on the things that have been dormant. The descending hub, though, is low frequency. It's unstable. It's stressed, it's anxious, it's fearful, and it's got its mind wrapped up into belief systems that aren't in alignment with one's higher self. And so the body suffers. So technologies were put in place thousands of years ago in order to make it very, difficult. For example, the Nephilim reversal grid technology is a massively complicated alien structure that has interfered with true spiritual marriage, or Hyros Gamos, as a possibility for human beings on the planet. Nibirian diotic crystal is another negative ET technology control network. This affects the grids and have been placed in sacred sites. This is a sacred site such as Stonehenge. So those ley lines are connected to hierogamic union going all the way to Glastonbury. And so this created a lot of negative energy and a lot of overlay dark grids. There's a huge number of them all over the planet. And they've been, a lot of them have been repaired. But they put them in these locations for a reason, because in doing this to the earth and the circulated or the energy meridians and grids of the planet, its circulatory system, it directly impacts us. So, and that's the whole idea, because we are a replica of the earth. So if they're able to manipulate that on the earth level, then it automatically manipulates us. And so when we come in through birth, through osmosis, we pick up on that. And so we got to, be conscious of that. And that is what the override frequency is. When you're the override frequency, you begin to create corrections. You're a part of the healing process on multiple levels. But, when we look at like Nephilim reversal grid, a lot of that comes through, Hollywood and entertainment and magazines and the social conditioning. But when you, become addicted to the bait that is presented in all forms of manipulation and deception, the architecture of this control system hooks into you and takes your vital force. This is what feeds the technologies, and it goes off planet as well. Our free energy has been used as a weapon against us. Different false archetypes are played out, and they are rewarded and encouraged in our society. Disclosure is coming from us, and our job is to recover from all the assaults, social engineering, and thousands of years of trauma. So this is what we're seeing and why people get so extreme, that you cannot like wake them up, because it's gotten so, it's taken over their nervous system. And it just gets worse and worse the more they feed it. And it can be very, very difficult to remove, and people have to be willing and wanting to, they have to have enough of a sense, okay, something's not right and I can't seem to unhook myself. Well, that's the place to start. So anyway, so we got the Nephilim reversal grid, but then, the Saturn moon matrix, back to that. The rings of Saturn, according to David Icke, are a massive broadcast system broadcasting a fake reality. DNA holds all the information we will ever need to build and maintain the human body. Researchers at Boston University and Harvard Medical School studied that 98% of our DNA that remains unable to be decoded is called trash DNA.